Everyone, here we are with the Fairey Swordfish. It's a new model offered by ESM Models. It's being distributed by VQ Warbirds. It has just come out. Beautiful biplane. It says it has an 85 and a 85.4 inch wingspan. What I'm going to do is get ready to do the cockpit kit for it. If you figure out the wingspan, it averages out to about 6 scale. But with the way they've got this cockpit set up, I've got a 7th scale pilot here. It looks like 7th scale is going to be more along the lines of the scale of that we're going to work on this cockpit. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start with the front cockpit. I'm going to mark it off and see where I need to cut it. It appears that this most of this whole upper piece is one large piece of ABS. Or it looks. I think they more or less use a clear plastic instead of ABS, and then they paint it. The styrene or the plastic or the white ABS seems to be you kind of worry more about it in the hot weather, whereas this is a little bit more sturdy. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and figure out where we're gonna cut this out, and we'll get started. Like I said, I'm gonna start on the front cockpit, and then we'll move to the rear. Okay, I made my first initial cut. What I did is I just came along here and I cut around the edge just inside this lip. I was going to see how much of this lip I could keep and if I needed to. And I cut across the front level with that lip, and then I left as much as the back as I could. Well, once I got it out, I could actually get some light in there and see a little bit better. All this is an ABS insert right here for the whole, or a clear plastic insert. If you look on the inside, I don't know, you may not be able to see it, but you can see you really can't see it. You can see that, well, the edges are a plastic insert. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that down to the fiberglass. So more or less what we're going to do, we're going to end up getting rid of this, all the back piece. We're going to get rid of this ledge here, because on the real plane it was hard to tell that it actually had one. And this will open our sides up by another, looks like an 1/8 inch on each side, so it gives us a little bit wider room. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out, and you can see by looking on the inside that the fuselage comes up to that side, and that's what we want to get down to, is the fiberglass fuselage. So I'm going to go ahead and take out this rear piece here and take all this around, and I'll come back and show you what I've done. Okay, what I've done now is I've come in here and I just removed the flat edge. I went straight down along the edge and cut that out. And what that does, that puts me right at the cutout. So I'm going to leave it there. And just, like I said, I cut down at an angle, and then I cleaned out to make this round up here and make it round on top. All right, next thing I'm going to do, so we can get a cockpit in the way I make them as a one piece, I'm going to come in here in the servo tray. And to get the rear cockpit in, we're going to have to lower the pull cables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to relieve, let's see if I can get something to point with. I'm going to leave this front part of the cockpit, but I'm going to cut this area out here back to the end of the circles and just cut this out here so we can install the cockpit from behind. Now we're going to leave the edges here to keep that square. Now if you need to, we can at a later time if you need to use this as servo tray here, we can add it back in, but I am going to go ahead and remove this so we can access the area. Okay, to install the front cockpit, I ended up taking out most of the servo tray. You can see where I've taken it out all the way up to these front 2 squares, and that's so we can actually get it in there. And to get the rear cockpit in, we're going to have to remove the pull cables down lower anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up raising this the servo tray towards the bottom of the plane anyway. So this allows me to get it totally in place. I'll go over the installation of it in a little bit. So I do have that finished this time. What I'm going to do is move to the rear of the rear cockpit, and what I've done in here is, first of all I did is I come in here and I went 1/8 inch down all the way around and just took out each one of these areas. Once I got that out, I took and the push rod housing here, or the pull housing, was attached to this cross member, which was across here. It was just attached at the bottom, and I just broke it loose and dropped it down. And then I removed the cross member. It's right here. It's right in the way of our seat that we're going to put in here. So what I'll end up doing is dropping and lowering a cross member down lower and attaching the pull down there. That'll be once we get the rear cockpit in. What I did want to show you, once I got that in there, I cut that cross member out, but like I said, because it was in the way. And one thing we need to do is, or I'm going to do on mine anyway, and this is a suggestion by me, is to take a piece of plywood, and I cut it 5 1/4 inches wide, which comes up underneath this edge here. It's cut the length from here back, just back beyond the, there's another former back here. It doesn't go quite that far. It's just right in here somewhere. Anyway, what I'm going to do is take a piece of plywood, and you can see I have ended up tracing it off, but you can insert it from the inside. This is 5 1/4. I had to come in here 3/4 of an inch and drop it down to 4 1/4 to fit between. I completely left that former in, and this slides in between the former and slides into place. And what I did was I traced, let's see if you can see this better. I traced the inside line all the way around, and what that did is that allowed me, I held it in place and traced both of them at the same time. And then I took just a piece of 1/8 inch wood and laid it across this line, and you can see where I used it to make a cutout here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out to this outside line all the way around, and then we're going to glue this to the bottom here. What it does, it allows us to mist this here, and it will add strength, especially if we're going to glue a cockpit in here. We want to add a little bit of strength there. And being an 1/8 inch thick, it will make this flush. And all we do is just take some clamps and clamp it in place while the glue dries. So I want to go ahead and show you that I did make this piece. I do have it cut out. You may want to make it a little bit, you could probably make this 1 inch deep, and that'll give you a little bit more room. I've only got about an 1/8 inch up here at the top end, and it actually would have been better off with a 1/4. And once I get it cut out, I may glue another piece on the end here to give it a little bit more strength across there. But anyway, I'm going to get this part installed. One other thing is, and I got to figure it out, is as you get to the rear of this, it starts tapering down. And I put this line in here. I may scribe this here, just scribe it, and then pop it, and not just break it off, just bend it down a little bit as I glue it in, so it follows the contour back here at the rear of the fuselage. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cut out and get it installed. I would suggest that you did the same thing. I mean, once you cut this out, it's really going to drop the weight down of the light ply. This is 1/8 inch. You could go down to 1/32 or probably 1/32 plywood's light as I would go, or 1/16 plywood, and put that in there. But anyway, I'm going to get this installed, and then we'll go from there.